New Zealand-based home renovation company, 6,593% ROAS. Sydney-based solar company, 2,700% ROAS. Hunter region-based bathroom renovation company, 5,616% ROAS. Melbourne-based building company, 13,182% return on ad spend. Adelaide-based solar company, 2,881% return on ad spend. Guys, the list goes on and on. If you're a trade-based business and you work with projects like roofing, solar, bathroom renovations, kitchen renovations, anything like that, head across to tradie.wiki/pod for podcast. Tradie.wiki/pod for podcast. Book in a conversation. It is game changing. Michael, welcome to the Site Shed podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. It's my pleasure to be here. I appreciate it.
Where are you joining us today from?
I am speaking to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Wow, I think you're the first New Mexican we've had on the show.
Well, let me ask you, have you had any old Mexicans on then?
No, yeah, well, that's, yeah. No, I haven't actually. There you go. You're the first Mexican, period.
Well, I'm an old New Mexican. How's
You're
that?
an old New Mexican. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Today we're here to talk about flexible service contracts.
Sure.
This has been a topic that I've been wanting to explore for a long time. And we have dabbled with it in the past to a degree, service agreements and things like that. But I think there's so much opportunity out there for trade businesses and contractors and all that kind of stuff to really leverage their database and client list better, using these service contracts.
Sure.
Especially the ones that have that just ongoing repeat aspect to it, like plumbers that do block drains and lawn care that do, gardeners that do lawn care and just all that kind of thing. Like there's so much opportunity there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I'm super keen to dive into this and get a feel on your expertise from this world, because it's I think a lot of there's this. I mean, we're a marketing agency, so there's a lot of like people that come to us and they kind of have a bit of a churn and burn mentality. Like we need new leads, and we're like, yeah, well, you do need new leads, but you don't want that to come at the cost of neglecting your current customers.
Exactly.
So, I'm super keen to dive into this. So before we do jump in, can you give us a bit of a rundown as to who you are and what you do, where you're from? Well, I know where you're from now.
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I actually just moved here about a year ago from Las Vegas, Nevada, where I was there for about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
But I've been in the service business, the field service business, for literally my entire working career. I started working for IBM when I was 19 years old, going to school, and I started as a night dispatcher for dispatching technicians and also a parts room clerk at the same time. So I've been in field service in one fashion or another for over 50 years. I spent about 20 years actually as in field service operations, where I actually managed teams of service technicians, parts rooms, dispatch centers, technical support centers, et cetera. And then for the last 30 plus years, I've actually worked for the most part in software that is dedicated to managing field service operations. And in the interim, I've also been an analyst, a field service analyst at a couple of the significant analyst firms.
Yeah, right.
So I know the business of service and field service especially pretty well.
Sure, yeah. And do you have sort of similar experience to me in the sense of businesses aren't really capitalizing on the re-engagement aspect to what they're doing with their business? Are they kind of too heavily dependent at the cost of their existing customers on new leads?
Yeah, I think that's true to some extent. I think it's especially true on the
reactive stuff.
End of the market that we're talking about primarily, the trades, the workmen, the plumbers, the HVAC technicians, et cetera, et cetera. It's not uncommon at all in the enterprise businesses, for example, in high-tech businesses. It's very, very prevalent in high-tech businesses, especially to have service contracts be really commonplace.
Sure.
And to actually have a sales force in place that does nothing but sells service contracts.
But is that kind of the SaaS model?
No, it's been that way even before SaaS.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's probably expanded somewhat with SaaS just because SaaS software lends itself to those kinds of capabilities a little bit better. But
Mm.
I mean, I was in field service long before SaaS came along, and selling field service for field service technician operations was always a really high priority in some of the higher tech industries.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for that. I mean, it's profitable. So if you think about even in the trades business or in the, let's say, the retail business, the homeowner retail business, if you go into a store and you buy a television or you buy a refrigerator or whatever you buy for your house, a new water heater, whatever, almost inevitably, what is the first thing that they ask you when you go to pay for it? They ask you, do you want an extended service agreement?
Right.
Right. And the reason they do that is because they know historically that if you buy a service agreement, odds are that the money that you pay for that agreement, either you pay for it in advance or over time or whatever, but the money that you pay for that service agreement will be much more, sometimes much more, than the cost of delivering service under that agreement.
Right.
So it's a very profitable enterprise for organizations. And personally, I'd love to see the trades, the kinds of businesses that we're talking about here, adopt the practice of selling service contracts aggressively. I'd love to see them do that more often. It'd be good for their business.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, and so let's jump into how that might look for, and maybe we can pick a vertical and just structure that. Maybe like we have a lot of clients that do, solar, electrical installations, and those kind of things do have like aspect and element to them where they might, obviously the initial installation, but then the maintenance, the upkeep, the monitoring of the system to make sure that it's running optimally and that the customer's using it to its advantage. And I think
Sure.
that would be an interesting thing to angle to attack on how that might look from a service agreement perspective.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about solar if you want. We can talk about, I'm a
Oh,
little bit
sure.
more
Yeah. Well,
familiar with
whatever.
HVAC as an example. If you
Okay.
want to talk
Yeah. Yeah.
about heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, it's a good example. The HVAC industry is, I think, much more prone to selling service contracts than perhaps other industries.
Sure.
And I mean, if anyone is a homeowner and they have air conditioning, heating units in their home or in their condominium or wherever it is that they live, probably many people have contracts with a single HVAC provider that that stipulates that someone, a technician, will come to your home probably at least twice a year to inspect the HVAC, the air conditioning system, to make sure that it's operating correctly. And so they'll do that in the spring, obviously before summer gets here. And in the winter and in the fall, they'll come and inspect your heating system to make sure that the heating system is operating correctly. And so there's a couple of advantages to that for the consumer. One is that they have pretty much a guaranteed date that somebody is going to come by and look at their system and make sure that it's operating correctly and hopefully efficiently for the upcoming cooling or heating season. And so that gives the consumers a bit of a peace of mind, right? Now, of course, they're paying for that service, but it's part of the agreement, the service agreement that they sign with the company. The other thing that typically goes along with that is that if you do need something, let's say you need your coil replaced or a fan replaced in the HVAC in the air conditioning unit, then typically you also get some kind of a discount for the parts and maybe even for the labor because you have signed up for a service agreement. Whereas if you did not have the service agreement, I'm just going to pick some example numbers. Maybe the rate, if you don't have a service agreement, is $150 an hour for a technician to come out. And there's a minimum charge of, say, 1 hour. So you're going to pay $150. If you have the service agreement, the technician is going to come out anyway for a scheduled visit. And that $150 an hour is probably waived because you've paid for that in the service agreement in many instances. And if some parts are needed, then you're going to get a discount on the parts that are needed as well as a part of that service agreement. So you may pay a flat fee for that, maybe twice a year, maybe you pay once a year for the service agreement, but you have that peace of mind that you're going to have a steady service at a scheduled date. And if there's any extra material needed, you're going to get somewhat of a discount on that material. So that's a typical service agreement in the HVAC industry. And there certainly may be variations, of course, but that's the baseline typically for a service agreement in HVAC.
Yeah, we have quite a lot of clients that are in the HVAC space, predominantly over here in more cooling than heating.
Yeah.
So a lot of air conditioning. And this is it's a conversation that constantly comes up because, of course, like you mentioned before, summer comes around, everyone with air conditioner calls their air conditioner provider or Googles it or whatever, and they want to get their air conditioning serviced because it's not working the way it should be or whatever. But of course, all the air conditioning providers at that point in time are not interested in servicing. All they want to do is install because that's where they make
sure, of course,
money. And so very, I mean, some of them have a good process around this and some of them don't, but like having that cadence built into their annual calendar where at a certain point in time, which they decide, not so much the client. Of course, you've got to work in with them, but if you leave it to the point where it's like, my air conditioner's broken, come fix it, the chances are it's at that point they're too busy to do it. So I think having like this scheduled program in place where they can actually structure it according to, for here, for example, like in the winter, it makes sense to service your air conditioners because they'll be ready for summer. Not do it when they break.
Yep, exactly. Well, and there's a number of advantages. One, you just mentioned when they break. If you have routine, regularly scheduled service,
they shouldn't break.
Then many times that's going to preempt any breakage because the technician that's on site that is doing the inspection of the equipment, if there is something wrong or if there's something that is imminently going to go wrong and it's apparent, then that can be prohibited because the repair can be affected right then when the technician is on site or maybe the next day if they had to order a part. But, instead of the thing breaking down 6 months from now or 3 months from now, and all of a sudden you've got an emergency call out in the middle of the night and you don't have a technician available because you didn't know that there was going to be an emergency call out in the middle of the night. So there's some real advantages to having the scheduled maintenance, of course.
I think
go ahead, please.
I was just going to say a lot of the actual, the manufacturers, they have like a period where you have to service them to maintain the warranty.
Yeah, that would make some sense. Absolutely. Right. And companies certainly want to take advantage of the warranty for as long as they can, the distributors and dealers and repair people. They don't want to be paying for that out of their pocket if they can get some reimbursement for the warranty. I agree with you
correct.
Wholeheartedly.
And I think sometimes people don't necessarily know that. Like they might go get a nice new Mitsubishi air conditioning unit installed in their home and not understand that they have to get it serviced, much like your car, in order to, maintain the warranty of it.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier that some companies, especially the larger companies in the more complex equipment, for example, they have people that do nothing but sell maintenance agreements.
Yeah.
Because it's such a huge revenue source. So from the service provider standpoint, the servicing company standpoint, I think there's a number of advantages to service contracts. We already talked about one, and that a very important one. It's profitable. It's a profitable service overall. Certainly, there are circumstances where you may sell a maintenance agreement for, I don't know, let's just pick a number, $250 for a year. And certainly there are times when the cost of servicing that equipment would exceed the $250. But by and large, for the most part, statistics and studies have shown that when you sell a maintenance agreement, more often than not, your cost of servicing that equipment under the agreement is going to be less, sometimes significantly less than the revenue that you've generated. That's why it's a profitable business overall. But there's a number of other advantages for the service provider who is selling the service agreement as well. One is, we talked a little bit about scheduled maintenance. You're going to have an HVAC technician come out twice a year at least. So what your schedule has to be at those peak periods. So you can plan accordingly for those schedules, staff-wise and perhaps parts-wise. So you can plan in advance instead of being caught off guard and all of a sudden having a bunch of repairs because something broke and you don't have enough technicians or enough parts to cover the repairs. So it allows you to plan in advance, which is very, very important, of course, to all businesses to be able to plan as much as they can in advance so that they avoid unnecessary overtime costs and shipping costs for emergency parts deliveries and things like that. So that's very important. It's also a consistent revenue stream. We've talked a few times already about revenue, but if you know that you have 100 customers, just to pick a number, that are on contract and they're going to pay every year at a certain time of year, that's revenue that you can plan on, as opposed to just wondering, when is my next install going to come up, or when is my next time and material break fix service call come up. Certainly you're going to have those as well, but the planned maintenance provides you the ability to not only schedule things according to a plan, but also generate, what revenue is coming in according to the scheduled plan as well. So that's really important, obviously, to all businesses, is being able to forecast your revenue accurately. I think, too, a couple other things that are really important is if you have a service agreement in place with a customer, you can not only count on that revenue every 6 months or every year, every quarter, however often the payment terms are, but you can also count on that customer. Probably, if you deliver good service and the customer is happy with your service, the customer is going to stay with you. They're not going to go look for competitors, and they're not going to switch and churn to somebody else. If they like what you're doing, if your price for the service agreement is reasonable, they'll stay with you. So you can plan on that customer and that associated revenue and the ability to schedule the technicians year after year after year. The other benefit that's hard to quantify, but we all know it's there, and that is a referral business. If your customers are happy with the service that you provide and they're happy with the service contract that they have with you and the price of the service contract for the service that they receive, they're going to refer you to somebody. They're going to refer your company to somebody else. And you're going to get additional business as a result. I agree that's hard to measure. You can't say, well, I know I'm going to get 20% more customers precisely. But what you do know is that you will get more customers. The only thing you don't know is how many, right? So there's a lot of benefits, not only for the user, the customer, but there's a lot of benefits for the business that's providing the maintenance agreement service as well.
And I think, like from our point of view, you probably skipped over the biggest one, and that is, and we hear this a lot, especially if you're electricians that can do HVAC, or they're electricians that do HVAC and solar, or whatever it might be. There's the opportunity there on the scheduled maintenance visit to look for other opportunities.
Oh, for sure.
So
upselling,
we're cross-selling, and just like, looking, and even some of our, clients that have done this okay with, in the plumbing vertical, they might go and do a pipe reline for someone and have a 12-month, regular drain check, and then go out there and while they're there, they go through their, 15-point plumbing checklist where they check the hot water heater, or they check all the other things as part of their process, and they're just looking for opportunities.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point, and we kind of alluded to it, but I'm glad you brought it out specifically, because if you are going out on a periodic scheduled basis, it's a perfect opportunity to help the customer understand that, gee, if you did this to your water heater, it might last longer. So yeah, it might cost you $50 to put in a new control of some kind, but if it extends the life of your water heater by 2 or 3 years, that's worth it, right? So you're generating additional
and the peace
revenue.
Of mind.
Pardon?
Yeah, the peace of mind for the. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right.
The peace of mind for the homeowner at that point, when they know they've got somebody coming out who's going to be looking for problems, is one listing they've got. Well, potentially 1,000 listings they have to be concerned of, especially for the if it's something as serious as like a block drain. And if you've repaired a section of pipe, chances are in 6 months' time there's likely to be some sort of root intrusion coming somewhere else in a different part of that service. So, having the peace of mind knowing that somebody's going to come out and actually check that before it surcharges in a house again, that's quite a relief.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. A service contract in many ways is an insurance policy. You're taking out insurance that something's not going to go wrong, but if it does go wrong, then you're guaranteed that you're going to have the service people available to take care of it, and take care of it at hopefully a reasonable price for you, and in a speedy fashion, especially if it's any kind of an emergency. And that's another thing that I've noticed here where we live, and I think elsewhere where we've lived as well, is that if you have a service, let's stick with the HVAC example. If you have a service agreement with an HVAC company and you have a problem with your air conditioning unit, many of the service agreements that I'm familiar with will prioritize you because you have a service contract over other customers that do not have a service contract. So if all of a sudden your HVAC breaks in July in Las Vegas, Nevada, where it's 115 degrees, and you've got 10 people that have broken air conditioners and they're all demanding service immediately. If you have a service agreement with that company, most of the companies that I'm familiar with put the customer at the top of the list, right? Versus those that do not have a service contract. So you get some preferential treatment, which is good.
But the other thing that we see really useful, especially for our clients that are in the electrical space at the moment, there's so much evolution in that space right now, in the space of everything from, solar technology through to home automation, through to, anything in between, basically. And having that site visit booked in where you can go in, it might be something as simple as updating the software for the technology they're using or what. And a lot of these guys can do this stuff remotely as well, which is quite useful as part of that agreement. But just being on top of these things to make sure the system they have is running optimally and with the best technology, like that can have significant impact on even things like, their power bills. So, there's a lot of advantages in getting out there and, showcasing the expertise and helping people use the thing the best they possibly can, which you couldn't really do unless you're getting back out there and talking to them.
Yeah, no, I think you're raising an excellent point, actually, because if you don't have a service agreement, you're not going to have somebody visiting you periodically that can advise you on the newer technologies and the best practices, et cetera. If nobody's coming to your house unless something breaks, or to your business unless something breaks, then you're losing the opportunity of learning new things that would be beneficial for you, the homeowner, or you, the business owner. So there again, it just comes back to the fact that having a service agreement can not only be profitable, it can not only help, be beneficial for the customer, but it can be beneficial for you, the business, because you're engendering customer loyalty, like I talked about before. Customers are not likely to shop around if they're happy with what you're doing. And as I mentioned before, they're most likely going to provide some referrals on occasion to their friends and family about your business.
Mm-hmm. Let's shift gear a little bit and move sort of more into like the practical application of what a service agreement might actually look like from a deployment technology sort of standpoint. Because I know a lot of the listeners and viewers out there, will be very comfortable with and actively using job management, field management, project management software for their insert trade here. So how does the maintenance agreements integrate with what they're currently using in the interest of simplicity?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. It's the really robust service management systems, like you mentioned. And I work for a company that provides a service management system. As I think you know, I work for a company called Zuper, and I've worked for field service software companies my entire life. So most of the service management, what we call field service management systems, incorporate some kind of service contract functionality in their software already. All of them that I'm aware of keep track of the warranty information about when did a product go under warranty, when does the warranty expire. The better ones will also keep track of what's the manufacturer's warranty. So if you're a dealer of an HVAC system, you may install the system at a customer and provide the warranty for 5 years, but perhaps the manufacturer has a warranty of 10 years. So you can go back against the manufacturer and reclaim some costs as well as a dealer. But as I said, most, if not all, of the robust service management systems that I'm aware of have the ability to define service contract, maintenance contract terms right within the software itself, including defining what is covered. So we're talking about flexible maintenance service contracts here. So I don't know if this ever happens, but I'll give you a hypothetical example. Let's say, again, I'm an HVAC company and I'm going to sell a maintenance agreement for my air conditioning unit that's, right outside my house. But for some reason, I want to exclude the coil. Don't know why, but let's say I want to exclude the coil. So I could create a maintenance agreement that covers all the other parts of the air conditioner, but not the coil itself. And if I wanted to have the coil covered, I could, but maybe there's an extra price to have the coil covered. So you can define in flexible maintenance contract capabilities that are inherent in many field service software solutions. You can define different terms, different things that the maintenance agreement covers, and provide different pricing. You can even provide different hours of coverage. So, for a business, you might provide hours of coverage that are, say, the 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, depending upon what the business needs are. Whereas typically for a homeowner, it might be, just 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, or 5 days a week. So you can define different coverage terms, different costs to go along with the coverage, different discounts that might be covered, especially in a business. I'll come and inspect your HVAC systems 3 times a year. And, oh, by the way, I'll also give you a 25% discount on any parts that you buy. So contracts can be very, very flexible. And for a typical homeowner, there a lot of flexibility is typically not required. But when you get into the business environment, small business, medium-sized businesses, where you're doing more facilities management, for example, facilities maintenance, then the importance of having the different flexibilities defined within a contract is key. So it's fairly common. I'm sure many of your listeners, if not all, have heard the terms bronze, silver, gold, platinum contracts. You get
Right.
different levels of coverage depending upon what level of contract you buy.
Yeah, sure. And is there, in your experience, like a right and wrong way to present this to customers? I know there's a lot of, over the years, we've had clients that have tried it and they've had sort of resistance. And my answer is, we haven't probably presented it properly. But I know there's a lot of people sort of have that, what's the word, I suppose, animosity towards somebody trying to sell them something they potentially don't need, when the reality is, like, the interest is actually, it's actually within their interest to maintain these things, much like your car.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, especially in the residential end of the spectrum. People are typically more reluctant to spend money on a service contract. In a business, especially a large business, there's like almost no reluctance at all.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
But the reason is because they recognize it as an insurance policy that is good for them.
Well, yeah, that's right. If your air conditioner goes out, your team can't be in the office.
Yeah, and it's not just the air conditioning in businesses, it's your whole IT system. In hospitals, it's the whole hospital system, all the equipment, everything. You can't afford to have an MRI machine go down
Right.
in the middle of a procedure, or go down for a long period of time, because they generate thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of revenue, right? So it's understandable why homeowners would be more reluctant. But I would say, to answer your question, the best way to try to sell the service contracts is to sell the benefit. And the benefit is, number one, you're protected. If something does go wrong, you're protected. You're going to have somebody available, generally on a higher priority basis, to come and respond to you. You're going to probably get some kind of a discount on material and on labor as a result of being part of the contract. And you're guaranteed to have inspections X number of times a year that are aimed at finding anything that is in danger of going wrong, or finding anything that maybe it doesn't need to go wrong, but it's not going to go wrong, but it needs to be calibrated. It needs to be inspected to make sure that all the parts are working properly and there's not a lot of rust or water damage or anything that's gotten into the air conditioning unit, which as a consumer, you would not know, unless you go open up your unit. And I'm sure some people are capable of doing that. I'm not, but it just provides them with peace of mind that the equipment is being inspected, that once it's inspected, it's going to work reliably for a longer period of time. if you have it inspected on a regular basis and maintained on a regular basis, it's not only going to work well for a longer period of time, the product itself is going to last longer. The life of the product is longer.
So it's how you sell it. It's selling the
So,
outcomes.
yeah, exactly. You sell the benefits, right? De-emphasize the cost and sell the benefits of what you're getting through the cost.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's essentially, it's the same conversation we have with clients, even at the level of copywriting. Like, no one cares about the specifics within the process. They just care about the outcome. Like, what does the result look like? What does the result look like? And I think as business owners, we kind of get caught up in that sometimes because we want to communicate things that we would want to hear because we have that technical background of our insert trade, whatever that might be. Whereas clients, I always say, make it pass the mum test. Like if your mum could read that and understand it, and she would, then publish it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you've just mentioned something that's really, really important. You sell it from the customer's perspective. What's the benefit of it for the customer if they buy this? What is the potential benefit? What's the long-term benefit? And as I mentioned, the long-term benefit is everywhere in all kinds of equipment, everywhere, whether it's in your home or in a business or whatever. If you maintain it and take care of it well, it will last longer. That's almost inevitably true, right? So do you want to spend $5,000 or $15,000 for another new air conditioner next year? Or would you rather wait another 5 years because you took good care of it and it's going to last another 5 years? I know what my answer is.
Yeah. And I have a question which I pretty much doubt there's not going to be an answer to specifically, but is there any kind of ballpark percentage average on what a customer that has set up and deployed a scheduled preventative flexible maintenance agreement within their business in terms of like percentage revenue they might be able to add on to their existing business as a result of deploying and implementing something successfully?
I can't give you a specific answer. I will give you a generality, and keep in mind that this is a generality. I've been a part of numerous surveys that we've done of field service organizations. These are all to businesses, though, not to homeowners. But it may give you an idea. And what we have found consistently, and I've done this, several times over the past 12, 14 years, is that service in many industries generates at least 25% of the total revenue for the business. And in many, many cases, it generates 40% or more of the profit.
Wow.
So, and again, I want to emphasize that's surveys for businesses.
Yeah, sure.
But I would imagine the trend is the same for residential and very small businesses. That if you have a service organization that is well structured, well run, the technicians are talented, they're skilled, that you're going to definitely generate more revenue than you would if all you did was sell product, and if all you did was respond to break-fix issues. If you have service contracts in place, you will have a steady revenue stream. You can plan on it being there every month, month after month after month. And because you're taking good care of the products through the service contracts, the products are more likely, or I should say, much less likely to break down. And when you have to send a technician out on a breakdown fix, generally that's more expensive because you got to maybe pull them off another job. You got to call them up in the middle of the night or on the weekend. You have to postpone other jobs because now you got to respond to an emergency. So revenue generated from service contracts is certainly going to add to the overall revenue for the company. And I believe strongly that it's going to reduce the costs, the service costs.
Look, mate, this has been a fantastic conversation. It's something I've wanted to explore for a long time, and I feel like we've covered most things here, unless there's anything that you think we've missed.
No, I think all the important things that I wanted to convey, I believe I have, and some of them I've conveyed twice or more. So pardon the redundancy to your audience sometimes. But I don't feel, I don't feel bad about that because those are important issues.
Sure. And at this point, I would like to even maybe throw it back out there to you guys listening or watching this, and just to ask what your experience has been with how implementing service agreements and preventative maintenance agreements and all that kind of stuff. I know it's been a pretty hot topic of conversation over the years within the community and stuff like that. And I know some of you guys have done it well, some of you guys have done it okay, and some of you guys have just
Not done it.
not done it, not had much success with it at all. And I'm keen to hear what your feedback would be. So wherever you see this come through, let us know in the comments and give us some feedback on that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the comments too when you get them as well, Matt.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, if there's anything there that you guys would like any expansion on specifically in what we've spoken about, because we have kind of given you, I suppose, a 30,000 foot overview here. But if you want us to go deeper on anything, let us know in the comments, and I'm sure I can coax Michael into coming back on the show and answering some of the more specifics.
Absolutely. That would be my pleasure again. Thank you.
Michael, where can the listeners and the viewers get hold of you if they need to?
Sure. There's a couple of ways they can find me at Zuper. They can go on to Zuper, zuper.co. That is our website. And I want to emphasize it's .co, not
Sure.
.com, zuper.co. They can also email me directly. My email address is Michael, Michael, @zuper.co. And if they want to struggle through LinkedIn, they can find me on LinkedIn, Michael Israel. I want to caution you that there is a very famous artist named Michael Israel, and that is not me.
Okay.
So,
Not him?
so you're going to have to scroll through a couple of pages.
Just claim it, mate. As long as he's still alive, just claim it.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Mate, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. And
Likewise,
for the
man.
listeners and viewers out there, I'll have links to where to get hold of Michael in the show notes, so you can head across there to get hold of the details that he's just left behind. Otherwise, that's a wrap. Thank you, sir. Enjoy your afternoon.
I will. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Please, while you're here, subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Now listen, if you are a trade-based business and you work in projects, roofing, bathrooms, kitchen renovations, home renovations, solar installations, that kind of thing, we would love to be able to showcase you as our next success case. Insane return on ad spend over here. We're talking 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 13,000% return on ad spend week in, week out with some of our clients. And we would love to put you in that picture. So please head across to tradie.wiki/YT for YouTube. Tradie.wiki/YT for YouTube. I look forward to chatting to you soon. Enjoy the next episode and thank you for all your support.